The Tiger's Whisker. A long time ago in Korea, there was a young woman who had just married the love of her life. They were so happy together, and he was so kind and sweet. Every day he would bring her flowers, and every night he would tell her stories, and they would hold each other tightly every night. But then the war came, and the young man was called away to defend his country. The woman waved goodbye from the window and promised that she would wait for him. Wait every day until he returned. And she did. She missed him so much. And she eagerly awaited news of the war to see how things were going. And finally, after a whole year had passed, as she was watching out the window, as she always did every day, there he was. She saw him coming, walking back home. Oh, she dropped what she was doing. She raced out the door, jumped on him, hugging him and kissing him. But he was different. He smiled at her faintly, but his shoulders were bowed and stooped, and his eyes, oh, his eyes no longer sparkled like they used to. They were sad. They were heavy. He barely spoke to her. He trudged, walking slowly, as if he were an old man, and sat down heavily at the table. "I'll make your favorite food," she said, and quickly went about preparing his favorite meal and served it to him. He smiled faintly at her and quietly said thank you and started to eat. She sat down. He didn't say anything else. "Well, how have you been? Tell me everything." But he barely spoke. And that night, when she went to hug him, he simply shook his head and turned over. And she felt just as lonely as she had when he was gone. Not only that night, as he slept, he cried. She woke up and looked at him, and she saw that he was sleeping, but he was tossing and turning, and his face was contorted. "No, no, please, leave them alone. Leave them alone." She woke him up. "Ah!" he screamed. "Oh," he said. "Oh, I'm sorry." And he rolled over again, but she could tell that he didn't sleep. This happened every night. He no longer brought her flowers or told her stories, and every night he would toss and turn, tortured by nightmares. He wasn't the same kind, bubbly, curious, light-hearted young man that she knew and loved. He was sad and withdrawn and broken, so broken. Now the woman tried to be patient at first, but he wouldn't talk to her. He wouldn't do anything, and she started getting upset. "The war is over now," she said. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," because he would jump at any big sound, or he seemed like a small little boy. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. Get over it. I'm here. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on." And when he couldn't or wouldn't, she started getting angry. Now she knew she wasn't truly angry at him. She was just angry. Angry at the war that had stolen her husband from her, because this man, he wasn't the man that she knew and loved and married. He was just the shell. And finally she couldn't stand it any longer. "I'm leaving," she said. "I'm leaving. You're not who I knew." And she burst out of the door, bursting into tears. But she had only taken a few steps before she realized she couldn't possibly leave him. She loved him. She loved him with all her heart. And she knew that the man she knew and loved and had married was still inside there, deep inside somewhere. She had seen glimpses of him sometimes, when she had made an especially delicious food, or when she told him a story or something, and she saw him trying. She knew he really was trying. And so she wandered around in circles for a little while, but finally she had a purpose. And she walked straight, fast, right to the house of the wizard. Now the wizard was known to make potions, love potions, in fact, all sorts of potions. She knew she didn't need a love potion because she knew that despite everything that he had lived, he still loved her. She needed a healing potion, a potion to heal a broken heart. Well, when the wizard opened the door, she burst into tears and told him this whole story and said, "Please, give me some sort of magic medicine potion. I'll do anything to bring my husband back to who he was." Said the wizard. "This is a difficult thing. Many young men come back like this with broken hearts from the war. It is a very difficult potion indeed to make. It requires some very special ingredients that I don't have." "I'll get them for you," said the woman. "What are they?" "Well," said the wizard, I don't think you can. You see, the main ingredient that I need for this potion is the whisker from a live, free tiger." "But how is that possible?" said the woman. "The tiger would surely kill me." "You'll have to find a way," said the wizard. "I'm not the one who loves your husband. I don't care enough to make the potion." "I do love him," said the woman. "I'll do it. I'll do it no matter what it costs me." And she raced out of the wizard's house, and she went to the marketplace and bought the biggest, juiciest hunk of meat she could afford. She knew that there was a tiger that lived in the caves at the top of the mountain. She didn't know how she was going to do this, but perhaps if she brought the meat to the tiger would look at the meat and it would seem tastier than she was, hopefully. Well, she climbed all the way up to the top of the mountain, and she saw the caves. She knew that the tiger was in there, sleeping, because he only came out at night. Well, she threw the meat down and raced back down the mountain as fast as she could. The next day, she went back up to the mountain. Sure enough, the meat was gone, and all around there were tiger paw prints. Oh, they were big paw prints with long, sharp claws. "Well," the woman said, "I'm sure the tiger has smelled me and known that I was the one who brought the meat. I'll do it again." And she went back to the marketplace, bought some more meat, took it, and this time she put it just a little bit closer to the cave and raced back down the mountain before the sun set. She kept on doing this every day, spending all the money she had. She would only go home to eat and sleep and serve her husband a little bit. They barely spoke to each other at all. He seemed to be exactly the same every day. But she smiled at him more often now, because she was making medicine. She was going to heal him. She told him every once in a while, "You're going to be all right. I know you are. I can't tell you why, but you're going to be all right." And he would smile back at her faintly, and she would see that glimmer of him inside his eyes. Well, she bought more meat, and finally she felt that the tiger had sniffed her enough, but this time she was going to risk it. And this time she put the meat as close as she dared to the cave, and instead of running back down the mountain, she climbed the tallest tree and waited. Shivering in the cold, but more from fear than from cold, she waited. And as night fell, the tiger came out. He sniffed the air, and instantly he knew that she was there. He looked up, saw her in the tree, and growled low in his throat. The woman clung to the tree even harder, and the tiger, never taking his eyes off her, padded out softly, sniffed the meat, gobbled down the meat, never taking his eyes off her, watching her as it ripped into it with his sharp teeth. The woman stayed in the tree all night until finally she watched the tiger go back into his cave and go to sleep. And only then did she run back down the mountain as fast as she could. By now, though, the tiger was getting a bit more used to her, and each night she would stay a little bit further down in the tree, until finally the night came when she decided not to climb the tree at all. Now, she made sure to be close enough to grab the branch and swing herself up if she needed to, but she stayed. And when the tiger came out of the cave, he growled low in his throat and watched her, and she trembled, holding onto the branch. But the tiger simply went up, devoured the meat, and went back into his cave. And as days passed, the woman started sitting a little bit further away from the tree and closer to the cave. And eventually, it got to the point where she sat right outside the cave, waiting for the tiger. The tiger came out, growled, flicked his tail, walked around her twice, and then ate the meat that she had brought. And finally the night came in which the tiger ate the meat right out of her hands. And pretty soon she was petting the tiger and playing with it and rolling around, and the tiger was licking her face. And she told the tiger all about how sad she was and how much she missed her husband and how she really needed his Whisker to make a potion that would heal her husband's broken heart, and would he please give her just one Whisker, just one. The tiger purred as she petted his head, and she plucked out the Whisker, and the tiger said, "Rawr!" and then kept on purring. Well, the woman raced back down the mountain. "I have it," she said, I have the tiger's Whisker. Now I can take the medicine to my husband. Please make it. Oh, he'll be so happy. I've been waiting for this day for a year. It's been a year." The wizard took the Whisker. "And how's your husband doing?" he asked. "A bit better," she said. "He's not quite so afraid of so many things anymore, and he smiles a bit more often and talks a little bit more, but he's still not himself." I see," said the wizard. "Well, we have the tiger's Whisker now." And he threw the Whisker into the fire. "No!" cried the woman. "But now it's gone. What have you done? It took me a whole year. Oh, you have no idea. I was so afraid, and I had to spend so much time and energy in taking, and the tiger, and finally I managed to get the tiger to trust me, and you burned it up." "Yes," said the wizard. "My dear woman, that is the only medicine possible for a broken heart. If you were able to tame a tiger with love and patience and kindness, will you not be able to do the same for the husband who still loves you?" "Oh," said the woman. And she walked away. She went back home. She made her husband's favorite meal. She sat down in front of him, held his hands, and said, "My darling, it's going to take a while, but you're going to be all right."